Hello everyone and welcome back to our city Lakewood. In today's episode, we're going to continue building on the industrial area for our city. So far we have our nuclear power facility that we created last episode, and we also have the oil industry over here, currently on hold until we finalize the design. What we're going to focus on today is we are going to focus on adding in the last industrial area that we need for the city, which is the ore industry. We're going to put it in this corner over here, and if we take a look at the natural resources info view, unfortunately, unlike the oil industry, the ore is not quite so abundant in our city. So we have a little section just over here by Meadows, and then we have another little tiny section over here just on the edge of the city. So we're not going to worry about extracting ore from either of those locations, and instead we are going to solely rely on the imports of ore, raw materials for our ore industry, and then we're going to level up that to level 5, and we're going to put a permanent ore industry just in the area right here. So we're going to start our ore industry just like we started all the other industries in our city. We're going to go to the districts and areas menu at the bottom, and then we're going to click on the paint industry tool just off to the right. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't have any naturally occurring ore in the city, but we still do need to paint an industry area for the buildings themselves. Now, I'm going to paint an area that's probably a little bit bigger than what we need, but we can always go back afterwards once we've settled on our design, and we can always reduce the area that we have. So we do have our generic anchor complex, which will change once we put in our main industry building. But before we do that, I just want to adjust the road layout a little bit. I want to make sure that I have enough room to do what I want to do up on the side here. So I'm going to just adjust the angle of that road right over here. And instead of coming straight across, we're going to just go down a little bit further. Like so. I think that will be more than enough for what we need. I'm hoping at least. Now we'll just hook everything back up together. Just like that. And then we're going to start our utilities. So we do need to have our water and electricity for the industry area. I'm just going to put that perpendicular road segment or pipe segment right there, just so that I can find the center of this 4-lane collector road. As most of you know, I do like to have the utilities, the water pipes down the center of lanes. I want to try and continue that. As you can see though, the temporary industry area doesn't quite line up with the center. You can see that the highway right here, for whatever reason, I kind of forget what happened here, but it's not quite aligned with the off-ramp from the highway. So as I said though, this is temporary. So once we sort out this area right here, we'll obviously get that fixed. But for now, since that's going to change, we're not going to worry about it. And instead, we are just going to continue on with what we have. Bring this across and turn off our snaps for the curves here. Obviously, not going to be perfect along these curves, but we can also use the names of the roads. So we have Barlow Avenue. That is right down the middle, so we can kind of use that as a guide as well to try and get our industry, or pardon me, our infrastructure down the center of these lanes. So we'll pull this across. I'm not really quite sure. I like the way that that road is aligned, so we're just going to redo that curve, I think, actually. I think the best way for us to do that is to line up our roads and get them connected like this. And then from here, what we can do is we can plan out exactly how we want our curve to go. So we'll go up from this road guideline and we'll go back, let's say 3 grid squares back. And then we'll do the same here. We'll go back 3 grid squares. And then we'll use that to cut our 4-lane industry road. That's how far back we'll pull the deleting of the road itself. And then we can use then the curve lane tool to line that back up. So I think that lined up a little bit better than what we have. Just means we'll have to pull back the water pipes a little bit. And then go through and just manually put in the pipes around the curve. Again, I'm not going to be too picky. As long as it looks sort of right, then that's good enough for me. So I think that works well for what we want to have. And then the entryway to our ore industry, we'll just have the 2-lane local road, and we will go to the small industry road And we're just going to branch right off of that, turn our snaps back on. And we're going to go 1.5 grid squares up. And I think that will work well for our ore industry. Cool. We're going to just go back and delete. Now that I'm thinking about it, we'll delete these temporary crossings that I have to find the center. And we'll bring this water pipe up this road here as well. Now, as for electricity, I think it makes sense that we pull our electricity from the nuclear facility just kind of across the way here. And we're going to go a little bit excessive. We're going to pull actually 2 power lines for no reason other than I think it's going to look kind of interesting. So we'll come up across there. And then we're going to go perpendicular to the lines coming from the nuclear power facility. Instead of running them parallel to the road, I think, again, it'll look a little bit interesting to have them perpendicular like that. And then I think that'll be good for our ore industry. So in the ore industry tab, we'll go to our ore industry main building and just place that right here. And then our name has now changed to the anchor ore area. I'm actually going to change that as well. I did have a previous attempt of filming this segment of the video, and I had a really cool name. It was auto-generated by the game. It was called Pearl Pit. And I really like that. So I'm going to keep that, and we're going to just have Pearl Pit. I think that sounds really cool, so we'll just keep it as it is. And now from here, we're going to have a very similar layout, maybe not in terms of shape, but a similar layout in terms of the way we're going to manage our traffic. So we're going to have these loops similar to our farming, fishing, and forestry industries. So we're going to go with some more loops just over here. And we're just going to plan that out real quick before we put in our directional lanes. So I'm going to just come across here like this temporarily for now. Just across like this. And then we're going to go $360 up from here. And then across. So this lower segment right here is eventually where we're going to have the ore industry maintenance buildings and some worker barracks. But for now, we're just going to leave it as it is with probably some ore grinding mills. And if we go into the industry, ore industry here, we have unlocked a couple buildings. We do have the small ore mine as well as the ore grinding mill and the sand storage. So for us, because we don't have any ore to extract, most of our, if not all of the extraction buildings are going to be pretty useless to us. We may put some in around just for aesthetics, just for something that looks kind of cool. But if you put your mouse around the area here, we can see that our estimated production is 0 unit per week, which was kind of expected. And obviously I'm not really worried about that since we can import everything. And instead, our ore industry is going to focus on production and storage of raw materials. So going to the sand storage, we're going to have a couple of these across the top here. It's important that you do have a decent amount of storage facilities to help support the production buildings that you do have in the ore area. Or eventually when we do our oil industry, it's going to be very similar where we're going to have lots of storage facilities to kind of make sure that our production facilities have all of the materials that they are going to need. So we're going to bring that across like that. Looks like we are almost perfectly lined up. Let's see if I actually did that properly or not. So that's going to be a cost of 1,000, and this is a cost of 1040. So we're going to reduce that just a little bit. Let's turn off the below ground view. So let's come across cost of 1,000. There we go. And I'm actually going to flip this around so that the entryways to our storage facilities are on the other side of the road. We'll just complete the roadway underneath here. Make sure all of our utilities get extended up to our new buildings. And that includes power. And then we're going to put in a couple of these ore grinding mills just along the bottom here. Just like this. And then we're going to adjust the directions of all these roads. So as I mentioned before, we're going to help try and control the traffic a little bit. So as soon as the big trucks come into the entrance here, they're going to travel along the 4-lane collector road, take this entry road, and then they're going to have to turn right. And then they're going to loop around here like this. And then I'm going to give them a little bit more freedom going around the middle lane here. So the big delivery trucks will come in and they will go around the loop around the outside, and they will deliver material to the storage facilities up at the top. And then any vehicles that are coming in to deliver material to the ore grinding mills can either go around the outside along the middle lane, or they can come from the storage facilities up at the top here and then to the middle lane and then back up around. So we have two kind of loops in the middle and around the outside edge. And that should be more than enough for what we need for our ore industry for right now. So I'm going to resume the game. And you can see these icons that have popped up here now are just saying that our ore grinding mills do not have enough raw materials, which is expected because we have to wait for them to be imported from another city. So either they will come from the highway, or they will probably come from the cargo train terminal in our temporary industry area over here. And then once we finalize and start working on our larger industry area here, our more permanent industry area here, obviously we're going to have its own dedicated connection to the rail network. And then eventually further down the line, we will have a connection to the cargo air terminal or airport. And then obviously also we are going to have connection to the cargo harbor, which will have a crossover here. But that's far in the future. For right now, we're going to rely on the highway and the train across the highway there for our ore. All right, so now while we're waiting for that to level up, I'm hoping that I can see a couple of these ore trucks coming in. Here's one maybe. Ore mining truck returning to the medium warehouse. Okay, it's not delivering anything to our buildings quite yet. So while we're waiting for this to level up, taking a look at the area here, we do have still quite a big area that I think we can do something with. Will look pretty cool. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into the landscaping tools. So if you haven't seen my video already on the landscaping tools, I suggest you check it out. So what I'd like to have is something that looks like an open pit mine. I think it'd be kind of cool to have something that looks like an actual mine. We do have, as I mentioned before, we do have the small ore mines and things like that, but I think we can make something ourselves that look pretty interesting as well. So in order to do that, I am going to use the 2-lane gravel road, and I'm going to use that as a guideline to kind of make something that looks like an open pit mine. So I don't want to have something that's perfectly circular. So we're going to go just around the edge here like this. It's not quite a circle, perfect circle, but kind of round along the edges. And then here we go. Here we got some of the trucks delivering our material to all of our buildings here. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. We'll have to wait and see how this layout kind of plays out in the end. Our ore industry is not going to be particularly busy. As I found out, the generic industry zones are always way busier than I think the other industries. But for now, this is working. We can take a look at our industry area and see how it's doing. So we have only 5 out of 500 resources produced. Let's turn up the speed and we'll get that going. Okay, so from here, I'm actually a little bit too close to the edge of the map. I'm going to maybe pull this a little bit further away. Adjusting the terrain close to the edge of the map's a little bit difficult because obviously we're limited to what we can do. So instead of having it quite close to the edge, instead what we're going to do is just going to pull it back a little bit further. There, I think that'll look better. Okay, cool. All right, so from here, I'm going to unfortunately have to remove all of the trees that I have in the middle here. So if you just give me a minute and I will do that. Now that that's clear, let's just take a look at our ore industry here. 221 out of 500, 136 workers, so we're getting there. Still level 1, but it's not going to take too long for us to get to level 5. And as you can see, I'm not sure how it looked during the time lapse, but the traffic kind of came and went as lots of trucks were coming to deliver ore to the sand storage facilities. It did back up a little bit, but as you can see right now, there's almost no traffic at all. So I think it'll kind of come and go in waves as deliveries come, and also as the ore grinding mills are needing raw resources or exporting their finished products. So the reason for the dirt road around the outside edge here is we are going to use that as an anchor. And so we're going to go down a couple levels here, and then we're going to make it look a little bit like an open pit mine. So back into the landscaping tools. On the far left here, we can go to the shift terrain tool, and we're just going to go right into the middle, and we're going to click 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, too much soil. So we're going to have to deposit some of the soil. And I think just over here, just like any other mine, we're going to have lots of tailings from our mines. That's basically waste rock and waste material from the mine itself. So I think it makes sense that we have a little bit of our own tailings pile just off to the side. So we'll click a couple more times. We don't want to go too deep on our first level here. So I think that's going to be deep enough. And then we'll use the level terrain tool, and then we'll click right in the center there to set our height. And then we'll just bring that across here like this. Just deposit some more material off to the side. I'm going to just reduce the size of my brush, get some of these finer edges. We'll go for a medium brush instead of the small one, just around the outside edge here. And as you can see, the road itself is actually stuck where it is. It's a bit of an anchor point, as I called it. And then if we do any landscaping around it, it'll just stay where it is. And we can use that without having to worry about messing up any of the terrain around the outside edge. Oops. Just level that out. There we go, just like that. All right, so from here, we're going to go back into our landscaping tools, and we are now going to use the slope terrain tool. We're going to set the our slope into the next level. So we're going to right click on the top here to set our slope point, or one of the ends of our slope with the right click. And then we're going to left click at the other end of our slope and drag it back to where we set that first point. And that will give us a pretty good slope to go down to the next level here. Obviously, as we put in the road, it's going to adjust the terrain a little bit itself, but that's a good start for what we want to do. And we'll put another one just across the way here. So again, we'll right click where we want to set the slope point, and then left click now down at the bottom here and bring that across. Back to our dirt road tool, and then we're going to turn off all of our snaps. Using the freeform tool, we are going to come off of this spot here and then bring it down. As I said, the road's going to adjust the terrain a little bit on its own, but I think it's a pretty good start for what we want. It's not too steep. It looks pretty good, I think. If it were an actual mine, I'm pretty sure some big trucks could get up that slope. Do the same just on the other side here. Bring it down like that. Maybe not the straightest road, but that's kind of how it is sometimes. Okay, so from here, we're just going to do another loop around the outside edge. Obviously, we're going to be somewhat limited by the angle of these corners. But we'll go back and we'll make some adjustments to those corners as well, the terrain around the corners. There. So that's our next level of our open pit mine. Take a look at our pearl pit. We can see that we're really quite close to the next level. Actually, we have more than enough workers, and we are 20 resource units away from our production goal to get to level 2. All right, level 2. So I turned off the pop-up menu, so I have to keep an eye on it. It does a little jingle or something like that whenever you get to the next level, but if you're not really looking at it, you might not be able to see the level up. But we've got it now, and we've unlocked some worker barracks, another underground mine. What else we got? The glass manufacturing plant, a larger ore storage, which I think we're going to take advantage of. So our sand storage holds 30,000, and then the ore storage holds 40,000. So we're not really running low on any of our ores. So what I might do, just so that it looks a little bit different, might as well take advantage of some of these buildings, make it look a little bit unique. We'll put in these ore storage instead of the sand storage off to the side here. So we'll have 2 and 2. And then we'll get going on our production side. So for the production, what I'd like to have is I'd like to have it just off to the side over here. So we're going to have this loop over here for our storage and our workers' barracks. I'm going to move the ore grinding mills over here eventually as well. So we'll go back to our 2-lane industry road, and we'll just have another loop off to the side over here. So I'm going to bring it out like this. I'm actually looking across on my other screen at the layout that I've come up with for the industry area, and I seem to have made it a little bit differently than what I had originally planned. So that's okay. We'll just have to kind of adjust it on the fly here. So in order to do that, we are going to have to adjust the road, it looks like, maybe. Maybe not quite yet. We'll save that here for a minute. What we can do for now, what we've got, we do have our ore grinding mills as well as the glass manufacturing plant. So we can put those in. I haven't quite screwed up my plan completely. So we'll move this over to right here. And then we'll put our glass manufacturing plants. We're going to have 2. So I'll have 1 right there and 1 right here. And then another ore grinding mill just off to the side. Make sure our utilities are hooked up. And then I'm also going to make this into just a normal industry road so that trucks can come and go as they need. Just reduce the size of that road off to the side so that trucks turning around don't have to travel quite as far. And then we'll leave that as it is for now. Have to keep an eye on the number of workers that we have as well as the resources that we're producing. Mostly workers. As we're leveling up the ore industry here, we'll probably have to have an excess number of buildings just to get our worker numbers up. But then once the number of workers that we need is enough, we can always reduce the amount of buildings that we have without any penalties, really. Okay, so we'll leave that going for now. It looks like my electrical lines here aren't quite connected up. So let's try to adjust that a little bit. What can we do for that? Okay, let's go like this. I'm just going to pause the game so I didn't interrupt the electricity too much. We'll pull this out a little bit further and then across. And we'll pull this one up and then across as well. And that should have everything connected up. There we go. Cool. Let's get going on the second level of our open pit mine. So we'll do exactly the same as what we did on the last one. We'll switch back to our level terrain tool and we'll just go down a little bit in the center. Maybe a little bit further. I think we went a little bit further last time. I think that will work good. And then we'll level the terrain, but instead now we will level the terrain to the center of that new level. I'll bring everything out to this road on the perimeter. Get our tailings just across the way here. Okay, I think that looks pretty cool. I think we're going to go down one more level. That would be enough. I don't want to go too crazy here. So we'll go one more level down, I think. Back to our dirt road. Our gravel road, I guess it is. And then we'll go back. We'll use, actually, I'm getting too far ahead of myself here. We'll use the slope terrain tool. And then we'll pull another slope down here so that we can have our gravel road coming down to the bottom or to the next level. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Unfortunately, I think the grass is a result of just the terrain itself being flat. I can't go and I can't, if I could, I would turn this all into dirt or gravel or whatever. I did, when I was planning out this episode, I did look through some of the parks and plazas. They do have, I forget which one it is. I think it's maybe the city park or the zoo or something like that. They do have these tiles. So the park tiles, these ones are stone. But there is one of them, the park tile is, it's like dirt or something like that. This one here, the zoo ground tiles, it does sort of look like dirt, but it's still more tiles. From a distance, it looks like dirt, but putting it in here, it really doesn't work out very well. So unfortunately, we're just gonna have to leave it with grass. But I think the roads around the outside edge there look pretty cool. And then I think it would make sense for us to hook everything up. So even though there's not going to be any cars and trucks going into the open pit mine here, it does make sense that at some point they would have obviously had to be connected. Because when the trucks were actively mining, they would have had to eventually come out and return the materials to the storage facilities here. So we'll just connect everything up. Just like that. And then we can also go back into the terrain tool, or the landscaping tools, and we will actually soften the terrain. What we can do is we can soften the terrain just around the edges here, just so that it comes up a little bit closer to the roadways themselves. Maybe make that a little bit bigger. Oop. I want to soften the terrain at the bottom here. Just kind of fill everything out. I think that looks pretty cool. How's Pearl Pit doing? We are at almost 300 out of 350 workers, just over 1,000 out of 1,500 resources produced. So we'll just keep that as it is. And look at this. Look at all the road maintenance trucks coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 road maintenance trucks coming in. Looks like there's already one over here too. So our industry road here is well maintained. Not to worry. Here's another one already leaving. Another one of 3, 4. Not really sure what the heck's going on. That's interesting. Look at all of them coming in over here. 2 more coming in. I'm not sure why they're doing that. That's bizarre. I feel like there's way more important areas of the city that they should be worrying about. I've gone into the road maintenance info view by just going down to the road maintenance menu at the bottom, and you can see all the purple trucks across here maintaining the roads. Oh, I guess they're, now that we've connected up the roads, they're coming to maintain all the gravel roads through our open pit mine. I guess maybe we won't have them connected in the end, but we'll see how this goes. It's kind of useless to have them coming in to do these roads, but we'll see. It's interesting. Okay, so part of kind of what I like to do, if you guys haven't noticed already, but I like to kind of have a little bit of a story or background associated with some of the things that I do. So Last time we talked about the science center being in here to help doing nuclear research and having the tank reservoirs and things like that as part of the layout, as well as the geothermal plants for the steam and things like that. But looking over here, I'm thinking that this open pit mine is very close to this river. I think there would be some concern with this this thing right here, this berm or edge of the river failing and crashing into the open pit mine here. So that can be part of the background for our pearl pit over here, is that maybe they got a little bit too greedy and they got a little bit too close to the river over here. So their open pit mine has been shut down and they are relying on imports of their industry, of their, pardon me, of their raw resources now, because they've been shut down. Their mine is no longer operational. So I think what we could do, just for decoration, just for fun, let's go over and let's maybe expand the shoreline over here a little bit. So in an attempt to, it looks like we're maybe cutting our fishing routes a little bit. I might have to adjust that. So anyway, in an attempt to maybe get this a little bit better along the shore here, some geotechnical kind of reinforcement, what the employees of Pearl Pit have decided to do is they are going to use, what are they going to use? They're going to use some water structures. They're going to use a flood wall, and they're going to help reinforce this shoreline over here. Just straight across, right beside our mine. Just like that. Maybe we'll come up over here as well, just to give some added protection for the mine itself. And then we're also, what we're going to do in that same menu, the water structures menu, we've also got the keys. So we're going to put another key similar to what we have next to the nuclear power plant. We're going to put a key just along the edge here. That will help strengthen the shoreline of the river. And I think we should bring that across and connect that up to our nuclear power plant over here. We'll use our landscaping tools just to adjust everything. So I think we'll leave that for now. I'm going to just let this level up. I will come meet everybody back here in a couple minutes as we get to level 3, and then we'll likely have to adjust the road again just a little bit. But for right now, everything is just going to continue on. Level 3 didn't take too much longer after I ended the last segment, so we have a few more buildings available to us. If we go back into the ore industry tab, we've got a few extractor buildings. We have now the medium ore mine as well as the seabed mining vessel. I would have really liked to put in the seabed mining vessel, but I think it will interfere with our fishing industry too much. So I'm not going to put it in this time, maybe on the next map if I ever eventually get to another map. But the other production building that we have is the rotary kiln plant. So I want to put that in for sure, and it's going to be on the other side here. So now we're getting to the point where it's going to start interfering with the layout that we've designed over here. So what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to make some little adjustments. And so I'm going to shift everything over just a couple squares, line everything up a little bit better. And what I did notice while I was waiting for our ore industry to level up to level 5 is that the length of the glass plants here is the same as 2 of the ore grinding mills. So I'm going to put some side by side just to finish up the area. So we're going to have a perimeter road just around the outside. We're going to have the entryways to the ore grinding mills just on the outside, just so they don't interfere with any of the truck traffic going towards our storage facilities over here. And unfortunately, we're going to have to adjust our 4-lane collector roads. So we'll just go through and remove that for right now. And then we'll line up our rotary kiln plants. They're pretty big. The plan is to actually have 2 of them. So we'll put 2 side by side just so we can have an idea of where everything is going to go. And it looks like I'm going to have to make some more adjustments. The plan was to have these line up, which doesn't look like it has quite happened. So we'll go through and we will make that adjustment here. Like so. So we've got a perimeter road there, and we want to make sure that we've got a perimeter road around the other side like we just had. So what we're going to have to do, I think, is just shift everything over ever so slightly. I realized I just shifted everything over 2 grid squares to the left, and now everything's back to the right. So we'll leave a little gap in between those 2 segments. And I think that will line up well. And then we're just going to adjust the direction of our road. So we're going to have our main entryway still right over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and control the traffic a little bit more as well with our 2-lane, 1-way small industry roads. So we do have traffics coming in, and then they have to turn off to the right, and then they can go up towards the storage facilities or through the middle road to drop off at the ore grinding mills right now, which we're very shortly going to convert into some workers' barracks. Or they can go right, and then they can deliver raw materials to our production facility. So we'll upgrade these to 1-way roads, and then once they get to the end here, I think we should have them be able to go left or right, and then they can cycle back up here. And then when they leave the facility, they have to go around the perimeter road, or they can go around the upper road here, but then join up at the perimeter road again, and then out of the facility here. So I think we don't really have to make too many changes. Maybe what we can do, I'm not sure if it's really going to make much of a difference, but we can add another lane just in between here. And I don't think we need to change the direction of that at all. If anybody actually even uses that, it's not going to matter since they have directional roads on either side. So we'll leave that as it is for now. We got to make sure we just make adjustments to our 4-lane collector road here at the end. So I don't want to have it too close to the edge of our ore facility here, or ore industry. So I think 4 grid squares away will be enough. To make sure we obviously replace that power line once we get everything resumed. So we'll come out to the edge here again. Just connect back up to our other 4-lane collector road that we have. I'll do the same thing as before. We'll just go into our 2-lane local road and use that as a guide. I think this time we'll go 2 grid squares away. And we're just using this as a guideline for deleting the 4-lane road so that we have an even number of road grid squares on either side of the curve here. Just to make it a little bit of a nicer corner. Just like that. And of course that means we're going to have to adjust our water. So we'll just bring that down. Delete the old one and then just put in the new one. So just like that, just a minor correction to what we had. Remove that. I think everything else should have coverage. We're going to go back and relay our power lines. Turn our snaps back on just to make sure everything lines up. This one. Now that we don't have the ore grinding mill here, the electrical grid doesn't quite reach as far as it did before. So it's a good time, I think, that we should go in and put in some of these ore industry workers barracks. And look at that, they fit in just perfectly right along the side there. So we'll put in a couple. Because what do? They increase the work efficiency of the workers in the industry area. If we take a look at the info view for that building, we can do a maximum of 100% with each building having 5%. So we'd need 20 of these workers barracks to be able to get our 100% efficiency. I'm not sure we're going to put in 20 right away. Don't think we need to be that efficient, but I think we can. Actually, I'm going to leave these ore grinding mills in for now because we do have to level up Pearl Pit. We still have a little bit more units that need to be produced as well as workers, so I don't want to be removing too many buildings. So I think that'll do for now. we will just continue to level this up to level 5. And the only buildings that we've got to unlock still that will be of use to us are one more storage building and the fiberglass plant. And it looks like that is really going to be level 4 is really going to be the next production building. We don't really need more storage, but the production building will be useful for us, and the maintenance building. So maybe what I'll do is, instead of having an update at level 4, I will have an update at level 5 and just show everybody the finished product. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to do some decorating and just show everybody the final product once we're done. And here we are, level 5 at Pearl Pit. It really didn't take too long since I ended the last segment. It didn't seem like it took too long anyway. I pretty much turned it on to level 3 speed and walked away from the computer for a little while. So it took maybe a little bit longer than it seemed like, but I was back in no time to level 5. So you can see I've made a few additional changes since we left off. I did actually add in a number of these ore industry workers barracks. We do have 10 along the area here, so about half of the maximum that we can put in, but I think that's more than enough for what we need. So we have an extra 50% efficiency above what we already had. I've also got in a couple of these ore industry maintenance buildings, which adds a little bit more storage efficiency. I didn't really see the need to adding too many of these because our ore storage is already struggling to keep up with the demand of our production. So having more storage capacity really wasn't going to be necessary. I have them in here really just for something to kind of fill out the area. Now, as for the production side of things, 2 new things that I've added are fiberglass plants. So we have one on either side of our rotary kiln plants. And as for the rotary kiln plants themselves, I've rotated them around. Previously, their entrance was along Gray Street right here, but that is the same street where our ore grinding mills and our glass manufacturing plants are also on. So I flipped them around so that the entrances to the rotary kiln plants are on Edward Street. And that's just going to split up the delivery trucks just a little bit so we don't have too much traffic going along Gray Street here and stopping and making the delivery. So instead they're going to split up to Edward Street a little bit. And cosmetically, I've made some changes to the area. You may have noticed that I've added in a few more trees, as well as some rocks around the outside edge of our open pit mine, as well as inside the mine itself. I've got a perimeter road around our tailings stockpile, and I've also added some rocks around the outside edge. I've removed a bunch of trees, so we previously had some trees along the steeper slopes of our tailing pile here. So this kind of grayish brown area where it's a little bit steeper. I took away all of the trees there, but left the ones on the top in the grassy areas. I've also removed a bunch of trees around where we are starting to see some pollution around the production area. And one of the big features that I've added is I've added this large ore mine, which we unlocked at level 5 for the Pearl Pit mine. And the only reason I have this in here is just because I think it looks awesome. It's a pretty big excavator, and it kind of fits in with our open pit mine theme that we have. So we have a big scoop on the front end here that would be digging the open pit mine, where everything it's deposited. I think it gets deposited near the middle or the end here, so we can have big trucks coming in to pick things up, things like that. And that's, I think, pretty much everything that I've done and added. Oh, I've added a fence around the outside edge. I know, very important for me to mention, but that, I think, is one of the last things that I have changed. But that's pretty much everything that I've added since I ended the last segment. I know Pearl Pit, the name, I realize, and I hope everybody else knows, that pearls don't actually come from a mine like this. This is just the name that the game generated for me on a previous attempt to film this segment. So I'm not exactly sure what mineral we're mining here at Pearl Pit. Maybe make a comment down below, let me know what you think we should be mining at Pearl Pit here. But we're not mining right now. As I mentioned before, our background story for the area here is we got a little bit too close to the river. And there are some geotechnical concerns with the river kind of breaching the bank here and going into the mine. So we've installed this it's like a flood wall, I guess, technically, and as well as a key along the shore, just to kind of try and protect it as much as we can. And that kind of fits in maybe why there's still grass in the open pit mine here. It's just been so long since we did any mining that the grass has started to regrow. And Pearl Pit Mine has had to resort to importing all of their raw ore resources. So I think that kind of fits the story well, and I think the area turned out quite well. Let me know down below in the comments what you think, and let me know maybe what we're mining, and then I'll update everybody in the next video. Thank you all very much for joining me for another episode of Lakewood, and I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you thought about it down below with a like, dislike, or a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so for some more City Skylines content in the future, and I'll see everybody in the next episode.